So, the update for Mag and Volt and the passives, the rework, all of that just came in yesterday, and I probably would have covered it yesterday had it not been for the fact that I was capitalizing on the double XP event, and I was also dealing with a ridiculous alert. Um, that was a lot of effort. That was a lot of effort for just no good reason. So I also wanted to start out on a positive note because there's a lot of things being done here that are really good, especially for Volt's sake. But there's also a lot of things that are pretty bad. One of the coolest things here is this deployable shield. Wow, what a great idea. I mean, we can really block some of that damage that was starting to get to us. When I first made the Volt speed build, it was implemented during, I want to say, Melee 2.0. And what was beautiful about it was that the more I moved around, the less I could be hit. And so I dodged most of the bullets. But then when Parkour 2.0 came around, enemies were still hitting me regardless. And it was a big, big problem in terms of how long I could last in T4 survivals and stuff. It was really dependent upon, how often I could life strike. But now that I have this deployable shield with me, it's like I can keep going, moving forward, and blocking incoming damage. But as you would notice here, I'm really only going to be doing damage if I'm dependent upon that bleed proc. Because any other case, it's just going to take them a god-awful long time to kill them. Much more than it did before in the past. Like, look at these numbers, 151, 150. There's a random red 270. It's pretty bad. And that's why I'm going to segue into talking about damage 3.0. See, Volt was a much needed update, and I'm not even going to talk about Mag. I'm sure everyone just knows how well that Mag system was. But we're going to take it to one of my most popular god builds of all, and that's the Excalibur. I'm going to show you just why they are punishing players for in-game. And DE, as a personal message to you, you are punishing players that go into in-game content. You simply are. See, I want to let you know right here and now that I am only getting away with this bullshit because I'm blocking. I went in here and I tested this earlier, and there's no way you can play as Excal against level 100s without blocking, because these heavies will continuously ground stomp, and it's utterly worthless. The passive for Excalibur should be immune to knockdown because he's a swordsman, right? He shouldn't be able to be toppled over like that. That puts me in a critical situation where I really have to use Life Strike. I have to rely on Meta Ray, and it's complete bullshit, to be honest. I really hope that Damage 3.0, the introduction of it, will see that this system is upgraded to the best that it can be. So now that I've done just my weapon, I want to show you my powers, because I feel as though a Warframe is only as good as what that Warframe can provide to the game. And seeing as though we just decimated with Broken War, and we struggled a little bit, now we're moving on to Exalted Blade, which is his be-all, end-all, right? Well, it's doing less damage, is it not? And I'm not even without of the 20-meter range. I got hit from so far away being knocked down. And look at the pathetic damage that I'm doing now. It's almost as if I have to get in to close the distance, but when I close the distance, I get knocked down. You almost have to use the Radiant Finish to do anything. If I use the Radiant Finish, bam, they're all dead. But this is not very cost efficient to my energy. I'm just really upset about this Excalibur update. I understand that DE wants to make it so Excalibur gets up into the fray. But here's the thing. If you want him to be that close range, he needs to be immune to knockdown. It's not an opinion. It's a flat out need. It's also a flat out need for you to have Radiant Finish. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing pathetic damage. And this is absurd. As I stated earlier, I really hope that this situation gets resolved with the introduction of Damage 3.0, because it seems as though they're making adjustments right now, nerfing us in order to make the enemy scale more practical than what they're doing right now. Because here's the thing. This is a PvE game. There's absolutely no reason for you to be nerfing us as hard as what we are. It's already a struggle for us to get to level 100s and maintain that survivability factor. The fact that we don't scale but the enemies do is absolutely ridiculous. If you want to reference anything, go back to Gears of War 3, look at Horde mode, and look at from wave 10 to wave 50. You have enemies that properly scaled. Of course, they did a little bit more damage, they got faster, they did this, they did that, but, you know, it was never impossible, and I feel as though some of these Warframes, it's going to be impossible for, you know, the less hardcore players to get into this. I'll just swap over to Saren to demonstrate this. And yes, I do have Saren nipples. I thought that was a very comedic approach. But what I'm going to try to do here is demonstrate how you as a player like really kind of need skill in order to make this happen. So I'm using the Azima to knock everything down, and then I'll use my regenerative molt to kind of provide a distraction while I lay in the tumors and capitalize on that damage that she does. A player out of the starting gate isn't going to know how to play like this. They really are not. Like, these are very advanced techniques, and I don't feel as though Warframe teaches you this by itself. It's as if you need to have a YouTuber or a friend who has found this technique for you. You know what I'm saying? Do you guys understand? The fact that you really need somebody to tell you to do all of it, and you can't properly explain this. You almost have to demonstrate it. Nobody's going to know these advanced techniques, and I feel as though Warframe going into the future, we need to have a system in which players know how to play their frame. There needs to be something in-game that just shows them the way. You know, maybe tutorial videos or something of that nature. Like when, for instance, if I go into Saren Prime and I click on abilities, why not hover over here and see these abilities at work? Show them fighting level 100s. You could even feature some YouTubers who are fighting against level 100s demonstrating these abilities and why they're useful. There's so many things that I have to complain about. Another thing, there minor adjustments that need made to the game, like why can't I take someone into the simulacrum with me? Why can't I use the cameras in Conclave? Do you know how many spoofs and shorts that I would love to do in Conclave? You know, fighting my friends, where they're cooperating, we're talking on Skype, and we're acting out a skit. I can't use the remote observer in Conclave. I have no in-game camera system that allows me to really, you know, make things of the same nature as my trailer. Raids are still an issue. Arcanes are a absolute bitch to obtain. It's just DE underestimates how stupid some of the players here can be. There's intelligent players, and then there's these guys who they see electricity on the track as you're trying to hijack that Fomorian reactor, I think is what it is, and they see the electricity, and for whatever the reason, they still stand next to the objective, moving it closer to the electricity. I can't tell you how many times I have failed that raid because some dumbass on our team runs the sabotage part of the mission into the ground. It's absurd. And to do the Arc-Wing raid, I feel as though that's completely broken. You basically get kicked out of that raid if you don't have the injectors, but the only way to get the injectors is through the raid. So you have to do the raid farming, get the injectors, and after you get that shit completed in your dojo, then and only then can you come back, because that's the only way the community is going to accept you. It's just, there's so many things. I get that they're trying to make this game refreshing and rewarding, and speaking of which, Excalibur Umbra was originally dated to release back in September, which was going to be my birthday present, and I was disappointed because China has had Excalibur Umbra since September, and we still have not had him. I am getting very upset at the fact that I may not even receive him around Update 19. It was a high hope of mine that we might, and that dream is going to be crushed, because I feel as though it's not coming out. So there's a lot of issues here, and the damage system, the scaling of the Warframes is a big thing. The difficulties that you have going into endgame, they're restricting you more and more and more. I think I would pay money to have somebody from DE come and tell me why they nerfed mag, the greedy mag pull. I'm sure we're all familiar with this by now. The way that they nerfed the greedy mag pull. That was excellent. That was such a great thing. And here's where I bring up PvE again. I tell you, it's player versus environment. There's nobody on the other side that's complaining. There's nobody on the other side that's bitching. There's no reason for these nerfs to be coming through. The Tonk War, I know that Steve joked at that, and I don't find that funny or humorous at all. We're already struggling with primary weapons to put out damage in late game. We want to go late game. Do you realize that people have jobs, they have things that they need to do, and in order to get, Vauban, Prime, whatever, you have to stay sometimes in a T3 defense, or a T3 survival, I'm sorry. You have to stay longer than what you want, and in order to do that, you have to fight in-game level threats. So, I don't get why they would restrict us, they would punish us, they would keep nerfing things and making it so we can't go the long distance. We don't have keys to spend. We don't have the time to farm. I mean, myself, I do. This is essentially what I do for a living. I make these YouTube videos, I have a lot of time on my hands, but I get that a lot of people in my clan, they don't have the time. They have jobs, and they get home from work, they get tired, they only have 2 or 3 hours to spend before they have to, go to sleep, wake up, and do it all over again. You're making this miserable for them. You've got to understand that, and all these thoughts and ideas that you have moving forward with the game, trying to make it more fun, you're going the opposite way. Like, we need to feel slightly overpowered. Why is it such a bad thing that we have weapons that are so strong they can wreck crowds? I don't find the issue with that. In fact, I would say that in scaling the enemies, you need to have less enemies going into level 100 and more enemies in the 20s, 30s, 40s. For instance, in T4 Survival, just spam our screen with enemies. Just throw everything at us immediately, and then as the level 100s start pumping in there, taper them off. taper, make them, less and less. Make the life support drop more and more. Make all of our abilities scale. That way we feel as though we're being challenged on a level playing field throughout our gameplay. We need to be able to run these missions for the long run. We want to accept that challenge. You keep promoting, wave 20 leave, wave 20 leave, 20 minutes leave, 20 minutes leave. Not all players want to do that. I know for damn sure that me being a veteran able to handle level 100s, even though this update was bullshit and nerfed a lot of frames, I know that I can handle that level of threat, and I want to handle that level of threat on the daily basis. This is what's tiring me out as the player. I don't like fighting level 50s, 60s, 70s. If I don't have that type of challenge, I don't feel engaged. I want a vast amount of enemies that have the ability to overwhelm me sheerly with numbers rather than powers. So for that reason, I wanted to show you one thing else that desperately needs taking a look at, and I will mention it later. As you guys very well know, I am working on an Inaros God build, and I want to let you know that it takes an extensive amount of testing, especially with a system like they've got right now, because I don't know what shadow buffs and what shadow nerfs were implemented. So it's gonna this stuff is always difficult because you don't know what to expect. You have to do extensive testing. You have no idea what's been buffed, what's been nerfed, because they don't include that stuff. For all I know, the Toncore could already be nerfed. So here's one thing I wanted to show you. We're gonna go with a nullifier. Screw it, we're gonna spawn like 3 of them. Okay. Now, with Inaros, what I like to do is before I even go into battle, I want to make sure that I have my Scarab Swarm armor on. But if you notice down at the bottom right, if you'll just keep watching next to my energy, you see how it says 100%? Watch what happens when I go into the nullifier bubble. Bam! It's like I don't even have it. It's like I don't even have what I just did. This is really an issue with Inaros because, I could understand it if it were a toggable ability like Hysteria or Exalted Blade, but you absorb your ult. It becomes your armor. Why are nullifiers stripping it off? That makes no sense. It's almost as if you put a steel fiber in your mods, and then just because you touch a nullifier, the steel fiber is null and void. This needs to be fixed. Excalibur needs to be fixed. He needs to put out the same amount of damage that he was doing in a solid set amount of distance. You can't nerf the guy like that. You make his Exalted Blade useless. There's essentially no reason for me to use Exalted Blade anymore. For that specific reason, I'll go on and show you once more. We'll fight something different this time. I hate this update so much. I liked it at first because I was like, oh, that Volt is awesome. The Hydroid's ability that spawns a tentacle, that's amazing. But the more I'm playing this, the more I'm not liking it. No, we're gonna spawn 2, because one I'm gonna kill with my energy, and then one I'm gonna keep doing it. One I'm gonna kill with my energy, and one I'm gonna kill with my weapon. So. Weapon first? Yes? No? Maybe so? Yeah, see that knockdown? Like, his passive needs to be knockdown resistant. How else am I gonna do anything with this? Seriously. Seriously. You want him to be a melee frame, but you make it so he gets knocked down. It's really stupid. Like, we need to keep the distance. Dead. Alright, now, Exalted Blade. I have to life strike because if I don't, I'm freaking dead. Look at the damage that's not being dealt. I am not too far away from him. Or her, whatever you wanna... Like, it's just really sad and pathetic. Like, my melee alone is gonna do a lot more damage than what the powers are. Do you see what I'm getting at here? It's broken. This system is now broken. They completely punish us in in-game. For what reason? For what reason? It makes no sense. I'm actually relatively glad that I will be ending Season 2 and not playing Warframe for a while. At least not recording anyways, because I don't like the direction that this is going. I really don't. Look at how useless this is. There's no reason to use Exalted Blade anymore. It used to be able to handle 3 sentients on 1. I could demolish them. This was the biggest damage in the game. Was it just the fact that all these other players were so jealous playing as their maces, their Sarens, and their Atlas that they couldn't stand standing next to an Excalibur who is putting out unparalleled damage? Are you really doing a fan service to the crybabies? Because if that's the case, I need to quit right now. I need to. Because I'm not in it for the crybabies. I don't want the crybabies to be satisfied. If anything, you should buckle down on them and make the gap between new players and veterans harder to obtain. It already is really, really hard with the builds, but, you know, I know that I'm providing a really contradictory argument here. You know, at the beginning of the video, I implied that there needs to be, like, tutorial videos that show you advanced techniques and everything, but that's kind of what the quest in this game is getting to end game. But then once you get to end game, you get tired of it because of bullshit like this. And I don't mean to attack DE. I will state that they are the best developers I've ever seen in video games, which is why I'm more disappointed than I am anything. This is very, very upsetting. I often wonder if they spend a whole lot of time trying to play this themselves and figuring out that this isn't good. These are not good ideas. Why would you nerf Excalibur this way? Like, I would think that Exalted Blade, the way that it should work, I would think that Exalted Blade. Let's just take the time to officially read what it says. Exalted Blade. Summon a sword of pure light and immense power. Okay, well that's a very bland description. That in of itself needs updated. I think, if I would recommend anything, I would say that Exalted Blade should be like a Super Saiyan sword, right? Like, it stacks what you already have going on in here and in your melee build. I mean, it's buffed based off of the melee that you use and the melee mods that you have for it. So essentially, if you come into Exalted Blade, it should take everything that you already have, double it, maybe triple it. And so then you counter with, well, that's overpowered. What's supposed to be overpowered? This is his ult. This is his ultimate. I don't... Maybe make it so Exalted Blade will automatically heal you when you go into it, much like Hysteria does. Because with Hysteria, I don't have to use Life Strike. It's just a big issue. You know, I'm very worried. I'm very, very, very worried that Damage 3.0 isn't going to be everything that I expected it to be. And I would hope that if DE sees this video and they recognize that this is an issue, veteran players need a way to compete at the level that they're ready for, then they're going to resolve this issue. And the nerf for Hysteria, they essentially made it more costly to remain in Hysteria over time, which isn't... See, it was already a big issue for Valkyrs because they would go into Hysteria and they would just stay in there. So I understand this nerf. This nerf really makes sense. But I don't like what makes sense to me is how they want you to, like, you know, break it and then re-enter it. Because that's essentially all that's going to be happening. But generally the way that I play with Valkyr is I will, you know, whenever I'm getting hurt, you know, I'll let this guy shoot on me a little bit. Alright, so now I'm really hurt, and I go into Hysteria. Watch what happens here. I start beating up on him. Wow, full health. You know, it'd be really, really nice if Exalted Blade worked that way too. That way, you know, the only reason we use our ults is a last-ditch effort to remain in the fight. In that regard, I totally understand why they would nerf it, but just for Excalibur, you know, he's not immune to knockdown. Even in an Exalted Blade, he's not immune to knockdown, and he can't get his life back without the usage of Life Strike. So it's fucking upsetting. It really is. It's maddening. Because as I've said, you know, 3 times now, this is a player versus environment game. There's nobody on the other side that's complaining. There's no reason for these nerfs. So, thanks for watching this video. I hope I've enlightened you guys a little bit and raised some awareness to some things that were an issue. And maybe we can band together and get it fixed. Alright, so until the Inaros God build, peace. I'd actually benefit from 2 energy vampire trinities.
Going ahead of Trinity.
They don't.
I really want to get one.
You don't want Trinity.
You know what he's like? You don't want to deal with this bullshit.
I don't want to do it. What energy now?
EV.
Yeah, you see how I'm playing.